Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Killer 7. So, one thing that occurs to me certainly in this game is that there is a potential bad way to play this game in which you could run to an area and run towards the end and then not get the keys to unlock an area, and then you would just have to turn around and run backwards. And there's already quite a bit of filler in this game. So obviously the right way to play this game is, if you see something, always investigate it to the fullest and assume that you're probably not that far away from finding a ring that probably solves any puzzles. We know that there are enemies in this room somewhere. I did want to shoot this golden statue just in case there was something special about that. See, so I guess the general idea here is that yep. Seems like there's enemies worth taking out now. Otherwise they're gonna wrap around and attack you otherwise. But you can kind of see that according to the map, this is just corridors. It's going with that very Japanese system here, where you have rooms inside of rooms with the paper walls. Although typically, as far as these more traditional Japanese paper wall rooms, they tend not to be rooms inside of rooms so much as directly opening to the outside. It's funny, I hear something, but there's nothing on the map, and I'll hit the Y button just to see if maybe Kaede's abilities would do something. But it seems like all that really did was waste some time. So there must be, I guess, if I was to suspect. Right. There's either somebody on the other side of this wall. Or somebody walking fairly slowly. And I kind of assume that they are going to be in front of us. Notice that I shot that guy in the chest and it was a one hit with double tap kill. Alright, so let's go down this hallway and then go in this room. Well, interesting that exploded, but it didn't hurt me any. Which, I don't know what passive ability my character would have that would have prevented that from happening. And it seems like all this did is lead to Travis again. The owner of Fukushima is mixed up in a bunch of things, even if the International Ethics Committee is getting involved. Chief, you watch yourself. The ethics agents, or hyenas, are mostly a crew of rejects, but the assassins trained in the Corps knows those guys are for real. They're after the Yukomo Party cabinet policy, or Yukomo. For short, it's just a bunch of paper, but it can change the world. You're on party, my friend. So there's some funny, like, political intrigue in this game that you just really I don't think I would have expected. I don't think there's really a reason to walk back that way. I don't think there's anything special you're supposed to be shooting on the statue. It's been probably a decade or two since there have been any major like political intrigue anime type stories out there, with the exception of the ever running Gundam series. So that's where I would have needed to have backtracked to unlock that door, which would have given me an opportunity to grind. Now we are in a flaming place, and I question whether our guy shooting one explosive led to all this flame, but who knows. And if we are just listening for enemies until we get to a point where we no longer hear enemies announce themselves, we're pretty safe. We got another carrier pigeon, and we can go in the Harem's room and upgrade. These kind of political intrigue stories definitely don't, I think, work particularly well when translated to a different audience, certainly, because politics is always somewhat local, and so that a Japanese political story is not going to really make as much sense as to an American as it would a Japanese person. Generally, the political beliefs in Japan tend to be pretty conservative, and it tends to be the old people that are in charge and stay in charge as far as Japanese politics. This is a weird game also because it inherently has an idea that was probably at the beginning of the pitch that got softened, where this was supposed to be, it seems like, a game about terrorists and suicide bombers, and then they had to soften it down to the terrorists being monsters and not having actual TNT strapped to their chest, because almost certainly that was the original idea, is that you were just shooting terrorists. And the general idea of shooting terrorists may have sold, certainly, but turning it into monsters makes it an easier sell. Kevin Smith never fails. It says, continuing my report, Kevin Smith never fails to amaze. You won't believe this, but it's straight up the truth. The sucker is a real-life invisible man. At first, even I didn't believe it. It's gotta be a hoax, right? Well, poop. The guy's for real. And then Con Smith, that pain in the butt punk. I can never catch him. It blows my socks off 9 times. When he speeds off, he disappears. That's right, disappears. The Olympic record means nothing with him running around. Coyote Smith has a thing for being a crook, but he's not like other thugs. He's fit, he jumps like an animal, incredible athleticism, not to mention he can pick any padlock. He must have picked this up as a method of survival in the rough neighborhood. And then there's Garcia Smith. I really haven't seen him much, so everything I know is based on conjecture, rumors that he can spot the heavens miles a mile away. This character's no joke, going against monsters like that. My investigation continues, Johnny Gagnon. There really needs to be a conversation here about accessibility, particularly if you have like dyslexia. I imagine trying to read this is impossible, having all the text bounce around like that. Sure, I get the idea of craziness, but how you would see this in more modern games is you would have text that was written like a madman with like scratches and scribbling in a like pre-rendered note piece of paper, and then there you would have the option, or it by default it would just be subtitled on top of that text. So then you get the implication of some craziness without having the player go actually crazy trying to read it. It's funny that the pigeons just land on the shoulders too. And that there's nothing more to it. And here we have the lazy girl in yet another pose. There clearly is a fetish there to try to put her in as much awkward poses as possible. So, we're still just trying to burn through all of these bits of information. Not really much of it is new. So nothing really special in that one. Let's read Garcian's special ability. The chief has a strange skill. Use the power of the ring to see through all. The L button scans, no doubt. In the name of Harman. Let's see, mass special attacks. Press the Y button while holding the launcher with the right trigger. One test tube for a shell shock, 2 for a focus shell. Use it at solid enemies in the name of Harman. Arguably, if I was playing as Mask, maybe those rolling enemies would be easier to kill if I didn't have the
don't make me say it again.
Precision shots.
What?
Yeah. Nothing else here is going to be leveled up, so we need, I think, somewhere around 10 to level up our speed or criticals. So we're hoping, I guess I could get both of those upgraded, but also wouldn't really be surprised if I can't get all 4 of them upgraded yet. There is definitely a point to be mentioned here that your game doesn't seem to really let you play that differently with the sniper option. This can't be good at all. Are you sure about that, Mask? Master, you must have doubts. Well, I would think. I'm wary of it, that's for sure. Whenever you get in a tight spot, you break out with your silly wrestling moves. But why can't you bury the past? By the way, your special 6 side suplex should be banned in the name of Harman. Alright. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to Mask. And then I'm going to go through this room because I suspect I'm going to end up having to in this kitchen immediately use it. Nope. I was wrong.
What's in your right hand, Chico?
Please don't. This is just a...
Put your arms down.
No, it's not like that. This gun is a...
Don't move, amigo.
Please don't
So
shoot.
you have to
Stay
get this
still.
cut scene.
Ow!
He just headbutts a bullet.
What were you doing here?
Then you
Cleaning
shoot.
up. Our head chef always tells us that an ideal kitchen is a kitchen clean enough that you can lick the floor. Anyway, it's the least that I can do for them.
The others. The chef, the waiters. Where are they?
Those guys with the strange smiles. You saw them?
It's dangerous, Aki. Get out of here.
So we're actually going to save somebody, so we don't seem like we're that big of a
Awesome.
killer. Interesting. So where are we now? We saved the guy, which I'm a little surprised by. We get some more backstory. But we're so powered up on Kaede that it would be insane not to play as her for all other encounters. What's weird about this is that since you have this unreliable narrator situation, you have to just kind of assume that all of these backstories and all of the thought that these people had lives and then somehow became part of this Smith group is made up. Otherwise, there's some real weird magic going on where people disappear and they become multiple personalities. What I would assume is that possibly there was a mask character, maybe not Masked Day Smith, but a masked wrestling character that looked like this guy, and our real personality saw them on TV and then created a personality from that. And that's not super crazy, really. Well, it is crazy, but it's not insane as a thought, certainly, that you would, somebody who is creating multiple personalities would base them off of people they've already seen on TV or met. Now, what's funny there is, did that in any way give us any thick blood for saving that person? No, it didn't. And then that really gives you no reason to be in here. There's a whole kitchen log, but we'll go through like one of these since we're already in the menu, but that's all I really want to spend the time on. We're spending too much time let's see. The flying ones is full of stocks. Black and yellow, full recovery of the syndicate's health. Red and blue, large blood infusions. The delivery truck attacks don't do damage, but temporarily affect your vision. Interesting. So that's why that micro that we ran into didn't hurt us. And so there's a whole extra benefit to shooting the micros. Am I going the right way? How would I even really know? So we just step down. They're not doing anything, I suppose, as far as the putting on slippers when you enter an area. that kind of step down would be an indicator of the lower part being where you could wear outdoor shoes, and the rest of the place would have been a place where you should have had slippers on. But I guess since we're here to kill somebody, we're not going to follow those Japanese rules. Plus, this whole Fukushima restaurant slash location where the government agencies are. What would you call that? We have another smile.
Hurts, doesn't it?
Yep. We can just see our power is so good. That we can target enemies from a much further distance. Let's see. Bright red there. We're back outside. Not really sure. I guess this is probably just going to split one way and split the other. And we probably need to investigate each of these 4 towers as something. Unless you just can straight up shoot it from here. Which it doesn't seem like that's the case. And it doesn't seem like you're going to quite have enemies spawn. Let's talk to the hint giver. The free hint, we might as well hear it. Even though there's so much set up here. Look closely at that sign. Big hint right in front of you. The cardinal directions, the mythical beasts. Can't be apart, no. They must come together. Shoot the mask to hear more. Okay. So, as far as knowing which way, a feng shui map, as far as the mythical beast, is going to be kind of hard to figure out. So, north, we're going to call dinosaur. South is a phoenix. East is a serpent or dragon. We'll go with dragon. So, and then west is, let's just call that a lion, even though I imagine that's not really what it is. So it is just telling you the answer, which it'd be practically impossible for any Westerner to know the answer otherwise. So we're going north. And so now the question is north or east. We'll take north. We'll zoom in here and see if we've got this. There's our guy telling us there's something interesting in here. So you go into this really short warehouse. So red and blue. I feel that it's very... I just have a feeling that I've seen that sushi chef before. I recognize that I'm full of myself and manliness. Look, it's all a charade, I tell you. A phony. All looks and nothing more. I don't care what you say, master. This one man I cannot accept. And no, that's not because he's... I missed it. Nothing the sort. Never. I just can't forgive that rat. It definitely seems like there's a backstory here And also a possibility of just like rushing through this game in a second playthrough and avoiding all of that. Okay. So Black Warrior, I guess, is what we want. Black Warrior paper door shuts. Okay. I guess if you wanted to pick a different one, you would probably have to open that one and then just make sure there's not another one this way. See what this bridge does. Okay. So this is just like a raised bridge. So we can't cross and get the soul shell, which we need, even though it really is just currency. I'm assuming I did north there. And that is a save spot, so we'll save in Harman's room after we do everything else. We should be facing east now. Yeah, it definitely seems like we're getting some assistance on the criticals, or it's just easier to get criticals. Let's talk to Travis. Straight up, he's desperate. Fukushima's only ace in the hole is the Yakumo, the secret conference of the US Japan charity talks. The Kaka building tomorrow, Kaku has a term limit. The Yakumo will determine whether the fireworks set off. It's Fukushima's offering to the guns. What's your move? Kill him and sink Japan, or let him leave and get the Yakumo? The Yakumo is dangerous. It will allow the United States to rule the world. The course of humanity is in your hand. It does seem like you might actually have a... Let's go with the Red Phoenix or Black Tiger. Interesting. No. White Tiger. The problem here is you don't know where you are in the map particularly well. And actually, I think I probably messed up. So this is probably supposed to be the north location, even though it says right now we are facing west. Yeah, it says we're facing west right now, which, yeah, I'm confused. Like, really, that should probably be the right one. So I'm gonna trust the map, and not trust my own like direction that I'm facing. There is a possibility here though that also more than one of these doors needs to actually be shut, because they are in the right position, and that it's not a matter of getting one correct code for each room as much as it is a matter of getting all the correct codes for each room.
Hurts, doesn't it?
You can definitely feel how this has been designed to make the player wander around a lot. I would say this game is definitely crossing that line in which most people would recognize that you're doing a lot of walking, whereas a lot of games work very hard so that you don't recognize that that's what's going on. Let's see. To my dear Samir, the world is falling into chaos as those ruled by a deep darkness increases in number. There's one group they fear. Have you heard of the Harman assassins? I don't want to call them on you. Consider setting up a payment plan. I found the target of their first job. His name is Travis Bell. Interesting. I thought it would have been Travis Smith. He disappeared 30 years ago. It's no mistake that he was murdered. Few people remember him, and nobody has said they were with him. It seems he got himself in some dangerous business. I will follow the murderous trail. No doubt a bottomless pit. I can't stop shaking, but I will put my life in line and find out. I'll be contacting you again, Johnny Gagnon. So the Travis in No More Heroes is named Travis Touchdown, which obviously sounds like a made-up name. This is the East House. And definitely by the third No More Heroes game, there really is just not any way that Travis Touchdown could be the same Travis. Master, this is bad. Seriously bad. It's an assassin. An assassin has been sent to this joint. A skilled assassin. But do not worry, a human assassin. Nothing compared to the smiling freaks. In the name of Harman. I wouldn't be surprised if the let's see. East should be the Azure Dragon. Blue Dragon. And certainly if you are really familiar with like the mahjong pieces, you would know those great monsters, those great beasts, fairly well, because there are tiles that represent those pieces, and I guess if you're just familiar with feng shui, you'd probably know the beasts particularly well. The problem as to why I'm not super familiar with it, even though I do have some familiarity with mahjong, is that the red dragon is depicted, for instance, in mahjong as just like a symbol. It's not usually a picture, and even if it is a picture of like the phoenix on some of the tiles, whether the phoenix is supposed to be north, south, east, and west is usually not written in English. I don't know if they get faster crawling on the ground versus the ceiling. Right. So this should be the south house. So this one should be the Phoenix. Yeah, each one of them has a different beast, a different color, and a different direction. Which is an interesting way to encode information. But it still heavily relies on knowing some pre-existing information to begin with. Well, ideally you would like a system where it was blatantly obvious and you could figure out through context clues. Okay, so we need to go back in here. And this is the west house. So open the Black Warrior. And then close the White Tiger. And that was right. So now the bridge is down. Let's go into Harman's room and save. Where's... You can see the critical is like in the neck of that character. Alright. Where's Harman's room here? Seems to just kind of like magically go into an area. Are we getting anything particularly new? It doesn't seem like it. Looking how this seems to break down, it doesn't seem like there's going to be that many more enemies that get released as far as Heaven Smiles. And maybe 5 more, and then probably a special boss for each level. And honestly, I really don't care. If anything, it seems like you get Kaede, Kon, and Coyote's special abilities, Kaede Mask, Dan's, and Coyote's combat info. It does really come off like some of these characters are secondary characters that may have been added at a later step. But you wouldn't make a game called Killer7 unless it actually had 7 people in it to start with. At least. But it definitely doesn't feel like there's an equal focus. So do I want speed or do I want criticals? I think you go criticals. Then we would go speed and then waver. And we are just now sitting on considerable amounts of resources as far as serum. And it doesn't seem like you maybe are going to unlock that critical lock as your final ability, and then there might be enough room for one other final ability, but that's it. Meanwhile,
Don't make me say it again.
I guess if we started to dump a lot of resources into Dan, you might have a more powerful gun even compared to Kade fully loaded up, because her zoom ability really isn't that useful, and you would have twice as much health, so that would help.
I'll take care of them.
Like, although at a certain point there might be an argument to just going with Mask Day Smith if you were going down that path too, because I think Mask Day Smith has more health too. Let's go ahead and save. The reason it's flashing there is because it's loading the save files. Yep. Guess we'll just overwrite this progress. It's probably fine. And yes, at this point I could probably opt to end this episode, but let's rush through to the next section. I do think that there's still probably a lot of gameplay here. Be funny if you didn't pick up the bullet. Like, looking at this map, it seems like at this point is when you go into a dungeon, which seems to oddly just be a checkpoint to stop you from rushing straight to the end of the game, but not much of a checkpoint, because all you're really doing up until this point would have been getting the ring to get the engraving, to then get to this point to put in the puzzle to get to the gate. And it does seem like, let's go into our inventory. We only have one blood soul shell, so if we need two, that would be a little weird. It also kind of seems like we might be stuck at 20 vials of blood. There might just be a maximum there, which I don't think the game is saying that if you had your light blood at the maximum that would unlock more dropping of thick blood. Although it would be nice if that was the way it worked. Like, and yeah, you get into this gatekeeper section, and this is where reality seems to completely break. Yeah. So you needed two of those in the first game, in the first area. Now you only needed one. And then you get a weird guitar bit. And clearly it's just a case that they wanted a change of pace. And it just feels like it's the same Coliseum, same no maps, same general idea. We are going to a different door this time. It's the same guy. I can't stand it anymore. I've seen enough nightmares. I won't believe anybody. The next monster. It's super huge in a certain part. I can't recall. I can't remember which part. You mustn't shoot it. You must not shoot that part. Hee, just kidding. Right. So instead of small face masks, seems like we might have a bigger target. Phantom smile.
Hurts, doesn't it?
Well, interesting that we could just one-hit kill the character. Almost certainly that wouldn't have been the experience otherwise, if we weren't so powered up. Don't even really need to reload after that. Yep. This is really a setting just to, I guess, show that reality is not real. And again, we went up, so now we should be on a different floor, but it kind of does seem like it just all spins around. Yeah, we've got a whole nother area. No, it's just as I thought. I remember. I'm scared. I'm very scared. It's a bloodbath. She's a strong girl. You gotta keep shooting or you'll lose. You must keep shooting. Okay. Now you don't have any hip fire options in this game. So you do just seem like you have to keep on shooting. And we're now back to this guy. And I guess we're not supposed to shoot her. It's just kind of like the slight beginnings of an idea of having rising action in the gates and then having falling action with the wheelchair character. Yeah. I don't think we're gonna beat the game this level here.
We've been expecting you. If you will, right this way, please. Mr. Fukushima is waiting for you inside.
It's not quite right, though, I would say. As far as just having very short sections of rising action and very short sections of falling action. Ideally, you would get into that gate area and there would be wave after wave of enemy to make it last at least a few minutes. Then you could have falling action with the wheelchair section.
Which profession may that be?
But ideally, you would like to upgrade your skills or have some conversation in the falling action, not just wheel a wheelchair guy.
I wanted to become a politician who could be a true leader, but the world of politics was like a stage where people only acted. They were merely actors playing the politician.
Did you ever think of becoming an actor?
Well, it just so happened that I got a call from the government asking me if I wanted to become an architect for them.
Architect? You mean to design and devise?
Yes. I took the offer with delight.
Is that the only thing you do, Mr. Fukushima, the founder?
Obviously, if you were going to remake this game, you would make the characters.
Could you bring us some refreshments?
Redo all the models and Julia Kasugi. I wonder if she's the assassin. And she's just going to poison him now.
It's a really old story. Union 7, a group made up of 7 young men, drew up the Yakumo Party cabinet
You would
policy.
just like
The heat of factional politics.
make this look a little bit nicer, change the name from Fukushima to something else.
Welcome in the world of politics. It became clear to me then. This country didn't have what it took to compete with the rest of the world.
It must be wonderful to have such a bright secretary.
Not as bright as you, Mr. Smith.
Hand over the Yakumo.
Lady, where are your manners?
So we don't have to make that decision. And we can't go into the menu. So I guess it's just is potentially going to let you swap characters. Seems like the camera triggers a swap on a character, but isn't really going to force you to stick with specific characters once you're out of the main guy, the wheelchair guy's control. Right. See what Travis has to say. She's hottie, ain't she? What a waste, though. Last fruitless attempt at resistance by the Liberal Party, using a woman as a weapon. That doesn't bode well for them. That kind of thing will only happen in a product. Japanese politicians are rotten to the core. Smith, there's no sex discrimination here. Don't hesitate. Take her out like the rest of us. Alright. So let's go into Harman's room. And I couldn't bear to sit through any more tutorial. We don't have any extra blood. So really all we can do here is save. And that makes some sense. There we go. And we are at the hour point. Like, I seriously doubt we'll ever get to a point where there is a different like room layout more than just Samantha being in different poses. Yeah, there really can't be too much more to this game, but we've already gone long enough for an episode. There's no reason to rush towards a boss fight that might take a couple of attempts, and there very possibly will be another anime cutscene in between this level and the next level. It doesn't seem like we're really guaranteed 2 boss fights in a row, like in the first level either. We got 1 ring, which does just really imply that we'll get a ring each time. As far as carrier pigeons at some point. We're probably going to stop collecting these carrier pigeon memos and start finding some other kind of memo, because otherwise the memos would just immediately be selecting carrier pigeons and there wouldn't be so much other room. If anything, it kind of feels like there's enough room for as many as 9 different memos, whereas this selection system seems to have room for at least a third item that you can potentially select. Yeah, blood really hasn't been a factor. So, and I don't think it's getting me extra deaths of leaders. I think what really is happening here is just a case where I've leveled up a character so well that I'm getting a lot of blood and getting a lot of one-hit kills that otherwise I wouldn't deal with or wouldn't run into. See, of the characters that are awake, unless I was just going to try and wake up some other of the personalities, they are now at full health. There is a real danger sticking to Kaede as the main character with her power at 4 and waver at 3 and criticals at 4 and speed at 3. As we get that higher and higher, it's going to become extremely tempting to never get away from that and instead always play with Kaede. So even if the game did convince me that I really would want to play it a second time through, which honestly it probably wouldn't be that hard to make that argument because the game doesn't seem that long, even on the second time through I kind of feel like I would lean heavily on Kaede. So at a certain level the game might do better if it forces the player to upgrade all of the personalities first and foremost to unlock a new game mode. Just get everything to level 5, but that still wouldn't get players to play with the other personalities. It does kind of feel a little wasteful. I just can't imagine, assuming this game is as short as I think it is, I don't imagine most players would play more than 3 personalities to any significant amount, unless there is just a completely different storyline that would happen with the different personalities. If I was the director of this game, the person in charge of making decisions, I would have said killer7 is too much. Let's instead go with 3 or 4 characters at most. 4 in Japanese is a taboo, so you probably wouldn't call it killer 4, because 4 sounds too much like the word for death, she, and so they just don't use the letter 4. Now at a certain point I don't understand fully why the Japanese language doesn't just change the letter 4 to something else, or the symbol of the number 4 to something else, so they actually can have a 4. But there is also that same kind of superstition in the West with the number 13, so it does seem to just be that numerology crosses all borders. But yeah, if it was killer 3, then you have Dan potentially as your main character, and maybe only let the player play as Dan in the first playthrough, and then if Dan dies, maybe then you let another personality be played, but you only get that selection scene after the character dies. And then I would say you probably would have Kaede just for some diversity there, to have a female split personality, which is weird. In general, I don't think most people with split personalities end up having cross-gender personalities. And then you can fairly obviously merge anything you would have written between Khan and Coyote into one character. You probably merge everything from Kevin into Dan, and you probably just get rid of Mask Day Smith completely because he's too much of a silly character. And then you get rid of the wheelchair guy too, because you don't really need a separate leader, at least from what I've seen in the story so far. Then when you had 3 people, they could be 3 people that you swap through way more frequently, and they could be 3 people that have different loadouts as far as guns, because it's fairly easy to have more than 7 guns in a game without having 7 split personalities for it. You definitely are having this experience where this is a Japanese story that's a little bit off the rail in that there's a lot of politics, and then there's multiple personalities, and then there's magic, and then there's multiple gun loadouts. Like, often I feel like a game director, particularly for Japanese creative types, needs to put them in line and say pick a lane and have only one gimmick in your game, not 3 or 4. Anyways, I don't want to ramble on too much. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to further follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and give me a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.